actual cloud recording. Hello, everyone. Today is July 14th. This is a SIG release meeting. It is a meeting that is recorded and available on the internet for viewing later, so please be mindful of what you say and do. Please be sure to adhere to the Kubernetes Code of Conduct, and in general, just be awesome people. So I've got a few things on the agenda, so Tim and I do a sync every Monday, and this is kind of a reflection of the things that we discussed yesterday. So lots of interesting things happening this week and next, and a lot of it is around release engineering-y tasks. So first up, we have the 119 RC1 happening right now. I believe Carlos is working on that. Not sure if anyone else wants to give an update on that. Okay, well, the update is it's happening.
It's moving along, it looks like right now, yeah.
And we should be back in later in the day with an all clear. But the mock stage and mock release are done. So within the next 2 hours or so, we should have all clear. All right. So the next one up is there is a Go security bump. I believe the 114 and 113, there are new patch releases for Go that are supposed to be landing today. As soon as they do, we will be consuming them. So stay tuned for that stuff. There's going to be some PR work around that. And then not soon afterwards, so I think one of the things that we were trying to understand is what we wanted to do when these releases came out. We've got two sets of upgrades to do, considering across 4 branches. And then we've also got a set of patch releases that are happening on the 15th or tomorrow. So the question becomes: do we attempt to roll the new versions of Go into these patch releases as well, or delay the patch releases slightly so that we can do that? As you know, trying to merge things on Kubernetes can be a journey sometimes. So coordinating multiple PRs is probably roughly, let's say 15 PRs, 15 plus PRs to do the various pumps. So I'm not sure that we will be able to do that by the time we want to do patch releases. Tim, you want to drop some of your thoughts on this as well?
So my thinking is it really depends.
Can't hear you.
Just a second.
I can hear him.
Oh, can you?
Yeah,
testing,
well.
testing.
Wait, can anyone else hear Tim?
Some
Yes,
people.
I can.
So Stephen,
Oh,
can you
okay.
hear
All right.
anybody?
Well, keep talking, Tim. It's me.
Okay. So my thinking, this depends on the severity of the CVEs. My worry scenario is whatever comes out of Go today comes out, and maybe they're delayed this tomorrow. I don't know. Who knows? They're saying something's coming today. Tomorrow we release. We've got our content. We know what our content is. We're shipping our stuff for our reasons. Our community likes it, is wanting to upgrade. But then we start kind of getting into the questions of like, oh, that Go stuff it's coming through. Like, what if it's serious? And then maybe our community is also saying like, oh, this is serious. I want that. So the problem scenario is if next week we then have to put out another release because there's something important for our community to have, That this is a security thing from the get-go is kind of what turns that scenario up a bit in my mind. They didn't describe yet what it is. We don't seem to have any signal. Like, is there embargoed info out there on this? We don't know. Um, I've been watching their repo. Like, one of the things that I like to do, sort of nerdy hobby wise, is watch people's repos for signs of CVEs that aren't actually announced. Like, that level of Git archaeology and snooping is interesting to me. Um, and they have landed a patch yesterday, and looking at the code, I could kind of imagine that this might be a high sev issue. We should know fairly soon, I'm guessing in the next few hours. But yeah, um, it's a network serving code thing that is the type of thing that could potentially impact us. But we gotta get their write up. We gotta get the details, do an analysis, have our PSC. When I say we, our PSC needs to do all of that analysis and decide, like, this may have no impact in the Kubernetes space. Ideally, we would just ship our patches tomorrow and that would be good. And eventually next month, pick up the new Go in our patch releases. But that's sort of the spectrum of choice, and we're a little blind on the options right now.
That was great. I can actually hear you now. My headphones are working. So yeah, so more later. We'll keep a tight feedback loop with the rest of the release managers. We've got a chat already rolling with the PSC. So stay tuned, everyone. Okay, any questions on that? Alrighty. So next up, there are patch releases tomorrow. Just an additional note about that. Patch releases tomorrow. For people who are still consuming Hypercube, there are some fixes for the Hypercube kubelet in there. So the previous patch release cycle, we did some fixes on Hypercube kube proxy. These regressions, yeah, it's regression, cropped up as a result of updating the underlying Hypercube base image. So the Debian Hypercube base image was based off of the Debian base image, and the Debian base image does not include some of the same magic that the Debian IP tables image does. So there's basically there's an IP table wrapper script, right, to recognize what version of IP tables you're running, and to force the various proxying rules to work with that version. So basically, it's looking at the host version and then mapping that into the container, right? Depending on the rules that you already have in your chain. So we fixed that, and then realized that for people who were using a Hypercube or a virtualized kubelet, that there were still issues lingering for them. And it was confirmed by multiple people. So there's a fix for that next release. Anything else interesting, Tim, on that one, or that we can? Yeah, never mind. Um, so those will come out tomorrow. There should be some additional notes on some other fixes across branches that you'll see. But again, this will be dependent on the information that we get from the PSC regarding the Golang update. So stay tuned again. All right, any questions on patches? Okay. All right, so next up, branch fast forward. So branch fast forwards have been happening Since we cut the RC0, so 119 RC0, branch fast forwards will end on the 21st, or whichever date that we end up doing the 119 RC2. Currently, that's scheduled for July 21st. So from that point, contributors will be required to cherry pick things into the 119 branch. And so we'll have a little bit of additional scrutiny on the content coming into those branches. Nothing too exciting there. It's kind of more of what we've done over the last few cycles. It's just the cadence has changed somewhat now that we have moved the branch cut to code freeze. So yeah, nothing to worry about there. Release managers, any questions? Anyone, any questions about that? Yes, Tim.
Not a question, but two comments. So the difference, just for folks listening, in the past, the cherry pick period between the cherry pick deadline and release was usually on the order of days. Now we're going to have more on the order of weeks. So that's a slight difference. But what we're trying to do, going back to the spring and all of the COVID stuff starting and the stress people had, is just like dial things back and move slower. So that's kind of what's going on there, just in the timing change. Then the other thing to maybe reiterate for folks is that on the branch management for the standard patch release branches, the branch managers are sort of the last level reviewer to say, like, is this a valid cherry pick after the appropriate SIG and working group or whatever, whoever the thing happens to be for, the ownership has given the review and approve, or LGTM. After that, branch management makes the final call. Does it go into the release branch? For a pending .0 release like this, as branch management has broken out a bit more relative to the release team, we don't talk quite as much, maybe always, in the way that we used to, where the release team was really making the calls because the branch management hadn't established as a thing quite the same. Branch management was only the later patches. So after .1. That just means we got to make sure we have the conversations that we're having right now around branch fast forward mechanics and what should go into release, and like balancing things like release now without go or wait for go for any given PR that comes through. We might have some of those things, and this being Taylor's release leading the release, like he should be the final call probably on most of these. So CI signal would feed in, branch management would feed in, the other folks involved with risk management in the release team, and ultimately Taylor sort of saying, like, I'm really worried about this one. Let's not pull it into the release branch just yet, or things like that are usually conversations to have. And normally there's nothing going on for those 3 days or whatever it is. Like, we're down to the end. So this doesn't usually come up. And with the elongation in time, there's a little more chance for something weird to happen, whether somebody who's not just saying, okay, this is done, I'm going to wait, I'm going to have a quiet couple of weeks. Somebody may try to force something in last minute that's maybe not ready, or that did get ready, and we may have some more of those judgment calls to make, and to really manage the risks well. To destabilizing something needs to just be a broad conversation.
Cool. Thank you for that, Tim. That was kind of my overall question coming into this meeting, was what the main difference is, and that makes a heck of a lot more sense now. Thank you very much for that.
Awesome. So any questions? Okay. So VDF is the next one up. VDF, our vanity domain flip, is the plan to cut over from from the underlying gcr.io slash Google containers over to community hosted infra. So Kate's artifacts prod will be the new underlying endpoint, or rather the geopinned us.gcrio slash blah and EU and Asia.gcr.io, Kate's artifacts prod. So you might have seen on the mailing list that there was discussion about doing this starting this week on starting yesterday. This process takes approximately 4 days for everything to settle out, because they kind of roll out the images in stages. So first, before they kick off the process, we backfill the images from we make sure that we've backfilled the images from Google containers over to our gcr.io slash Google containers over to Kate's artifacts prod, to ensure that there is no mismatch between what's in the old and what will be in the new, and then the domain is cut over. But so part of the trick is that they have to do it for 3 geographic locations. So that happens in phases, and that takes a little time. And the time is about 4 days. So before we embark on that, we have to make sure that our house is in order, I guess, for release engineering, making sure that we're able to actually continue to do releases, patch releases or otherwise, as well as there are no important infra upgrades happening at the same time, right? So given everything that we've said, there are quite a few infra-related things happening this week. So Go, the patch releases, the RCs, all of which make it more risky to consider doing the VDF this week. So tentatively, we have the VDF planned for, and VDF equals vanity domain flip, for anyone who's not familiar. So we have that work planned for next week, starting on the 20th. And yeah, hopefully that's there's nothing to worry about. We've had a few starts and stops. We had initially planned this work for April, but as you're dealing with legacy endpoints, there are always fun things that you encounter. So there are lots of fun things that were encountered on the Google side, including, I think, in the last most recent attempt was a billing issue between the internal Google side and the community infra. So that has since been resolved, and we are going to move ahead. So what this will mean for release managers specifically is that we'll be moving to promotion of our images as opposed to the release images specifically. So anything that is core server image. So think Cube API server, controller manager, proxy, scheduler, the conformance images, and for the branches that still support it, Hypercube. Those images, previously we've been able to push those images directly to the staging repo during mock stages, and directly to the production repo in the instance of mock, in the instance of official stage and releases. So now that we'll be moving to Kubernetes community infra for at least this portion of the release process, we'll have to promote the images into the production repo. So essentially what we'll have to do is if you're familiar with the promotion process, it's essentially you aggregate a set of digest for the container images. You plop that into a YAML file that is in kates.io, the repo kates.io/kates.io, and then wait for that PR to be approved. And then after that PR is approved, there's a post submit that will carry the images from staging into production, right? So moving forward, once we confirm that the vanity domain flip is done, we'll have to ensure that before we complete an official release, we're promoting the images from staging to production, right? So something to be aware of. There is a tool called CIPMM, or Container Image Promoter Merge Manifest, which was created by Linus, and that is in the Kate's Container Image Promoter repo in Kubernetes SIGs. And what that tool does is it essentially merges manifests, right? So we have manifests that are, let me see if I can just show this to you really quickly for people who are not familiar, and probably quit Slack while I'm at it. So kates.io, right? So there's a folder called kates.gcr.io, and the folder is split into images and manifests. For the manifests folder, what that will tell you is it's a set of instructions for various staging repositories about where they should promote their content, right? So in our case, we work with a few, but primarily for the release process, we care about the Kate's staging Kubernetes manifest, right? Looking at this promoter manifest, it basically says, my source for promotion is going to be gcr.io/kates-staging-kubernetes. And you can see there's a nice little comment here that lets you know that this is a manifest that will be handling root level kates.gcr.io images. The reason we're handling root level here is because these images have been root level since epoch, and it's important that we don't all of a sudden break a bunch of users who have been consuming Kubernetes images by pointing them to a new location. The reason I mentioned the locations, so specifically around the locations, each of these manifests correspond to a essentially staging subdirectory of the new image repository, right? So if you have if I have Kate staging build image, which is another one that we use for the cube cross images, if you remove the prefix Kate staging, you'll get what the subdirectory will be, right? So it is, so it would be, say for the US location, it would be us.gcr.io/Kate's artifacts prod/build image / the name of your image, right? In the instance of the Kate staging Kubernetes ones, we're saying, right, we want, let me just make that a little bigger. So we want Kate's artifacts prod, but we also want Kate's artifacts prod /Kubernetes, right? So this is just making sure that it lands in that subdirectory, right? If we remove the Kate staging piece, right? It lands in that subdirectory, but it also lands in the root. And again, it landing in the root, most images will not ever be promoted to root. The only exceptions for this are the images that will land in this in the staging and subsequent prod project. So the images, the Cloud Controller Manager Conformance, Kube API Server Controller Manager, Kube Proxy, Kube Scheduler, and the pause image. And then also the etcd images will get promoted into that root location, right? So that is the promoter manifest, right? On the flip side, remember there were two directories. The other one is the images directory, right? And if we look into the images directory, we can see one that is a lot less populated, right? So this is basically a map of the digests. So this is a tag for an image, and this is its container image digest, right? So it's the name of the image, it's one of the digests, and then an associated tag with that digest. And then we can see that we have this image from multiple architectures. So that's the pause image. That's how the pause image would be promoted. Yes. And if we wanted to look at maybe one with more images in it, we can look at build image. Build image. So build image has the Debian base images. You can see that this is a slightly different format. Okay. All right. I'm on a call. And so again, we have the image on based on the architecture specific images, and then say for Cube Cross is does not have multiple architectures right now. So we can see that these images are listed here. Usually the next question will be, well, these tags seem to be out of order, right? The tags are actually not out of order. This is sorted by the digest number. So you can see 028, 088, which is confusing, but it makes sense the way it is organized. And it's primarily consumed by machines, right? So
Makes sense to the computers.
exactly, right. So the tool that I had mentioned before, CIPMM, merges manifests, basically looks for manifest in a location that you give it. So you would give it a location like build image. And then it says you can filter by tag or name and a staging repository. So it looks in the staging repository for images that match that name or that tag that you give it. And it will take those images and merge it into this manifest, right? So it'll spit out an updated version of this manifest, right? So in the instance of this one, it will move these into this format, right? So it'll remove the individual list, and it'll turn it into kind of, it'll still be a list. It'll just move it into kind of a single line format. And then we'll merge in the additional image manifests. So I had requested this from Linus a little while back, and he totally crushed it. I used it. I use it for most of my image promotions now, just to make sure that everything is well formed. He also uses it for the image backfills, which is hundreds, thousands of images sometimes, to make sure that Kate's.gcr.io stays in sync with Kate's artifacts prod, or vice versa, depending on how you look at it. So tool is pretty cool, and it does exactly what we need it to. My feature request was essentially, hey, I need to make this dead simple for someone who is doing a release. It'll get to the point where we need to promote a large amount of images at the same time, and I don't want there to be human error around that. So I think within, if you consider all promotions, the ones that we have to do are I guess the largest amount of promotions at the same time outside of the backfills. So making sure that that goes off without a hitch is super important, especially given that these images are images that we produce for the public. So any questions on that? Okay. Okay, so longer term. Tim, this first one was yours. Patch release bug or feature relative to cloud providers.
Yeah, and I'll try to make this brief because I know we've got a couple of the ARM folks on the call, and I want to make sure we get an update from where that stuff went. I hadn't managed to make it to that SIG Arch meeting. So patch release. Kubernetes originally having been monolithic and cloud providers being in it, there's a lot of cloud provider code that is potential candidate for patch releases. Cloud providers tend to view it as a notable bug if current Kubernetes doesn't run on their platform, where current Kubernetes could be like the latest 1.16, not 1.19. So that drives a desire to have the things working and integrated. But what happens is the way the code is, what happens is a cat attacks me while I'm trying to talk. We're SIG kitten, I think. So cloud provider comes up with a new instance type, for example. So VM has more or less CPU, a different way of attaching disk, different things like that. And somebody runs code from Kubernetes community and discovers it doesn't work right. And they're not happy. So the cloud provider, their existence is about making their users happy. They want to get the fix. But the way I sort of view this is we're looking at patches that are critical, urgent patches. I also want to know, like from a sustainability perspective, how did we miss this? So if a cherry pick is proposed against 1.16, how did we miss getting the fix, or how did we allow the bug to escape into 1.16? Well, if the answer is, well, it's related to a VM type that's brand new on Azure or GCP, or VMware changed something in vSphere, or whoever it is, to me, that starts to sound like a feature. The cloud provider has introduced something that in the past we had no way of designing for. And some of this comes back to design decisions, how the things are coupled. If you have a giant YAML file that lists all the VM types, obviously you're going to always want to be appending new VM types to that. So some of these things are really simple, like a small append of a little bit of a specification of a VM type. But to me, it's a slippery slope. And I feel like it needs to be something for a little bit more global decision that we think about and discuss how we handle these cases. And one of the answers may be that we have some criteria, technical criteria of what we go ahead and accept, even though we're not happy about it, maybe because it feels feature-like, but we have this history of the cloud providers being tightly coupled, and we've got to balance those two. So with that context, I'm curious what people think. What would you do? What would you say on these types of things? And like you, the cat has decided to sit down and just look at me instead of climbing up me.
Lilu, do you have opinions on cloud provider cherry picks? Okay, nothing. All right. So yeah, I agree that this is something that comes up pretty frequently when we're reviewing cherry picks, and I think it's pretty much always Tim who goes, "What should we do here? Like, is it a feature? Is it a bug?" And it for wearing my emeritus SIG Azure chair hat, or I think that was the right combination of words. It is hard to catch everything, right? We don't have perfect parity between instances of, say, ARM new feature sets within Azure, or and Kubernetes, right? Where there are also efforts to, don't eat me, stop it. There are also efforts to move to out of tree providers, right? So in instances where we have code that may be functionally glue code to allow movement, we have to consider, do we want to be able to merge that stuff too? So it depends for me, I think, is the easiest way to say this. The ways we can head that off is tests. Within our, within test coverage, it's, curious to ask, well, is this something that's covered by the tests on this branch, right? Why, when we talk about misses, right, is it because it's not in the test suite? Is it because it's a net new feature, right? Did we introduce a bug and have, as a result added a new piece of a new piece within the test suite, or is it a net new feature? Is it kind of on the cusp where it's a feature that was introduced to fix a bug that we should take advantage of from the cloud, of a feature that was introduced to fix a bug from the cloud provider that we should take advantage of within Kubernetes. So I think it's case by case. I think it would be nice to have some rough heuristics around when it is right and wrong to do these patches, and yeah, maybe we can start chatting about this more in public than we normally do. I think that that might be cool for the release engineering meetings to bring a set of patches for the community to discuss as well. Because when we're unsure, these conversations usually happen in our private release managers chat, right? So I think bringing those out in the public would be at least one step in the process. Okay, so any questions on that stuff? Alrighty. Well, we're going to speed through the rest because we do want to get to the Arch stuff. Really quick, we have a Golang 115 release date trending towards, I believe the last we heard was early August. Depending on when the security stuff is planned to land, should be today for 113 and 114. Go 115, again, tentative early August, but it does seem that maybe we were expecting an RC, maybe their betas are considered to be RCs for them. But looks like we were expecting an RC earlier for Go 115, because the intent was to start consuming that RC on our master branch. So there could be delay, and the delay could be related to the fact that the 113 and 114 patches are security releases. Could have taken some extra time to get that information out. So again, I think this is a stay tuned one. As we have more information, I'm going to send another note to the Go team probably later today and get some more information based on that. So again, stay tuned. We'll keep you updated. Bazel, that's ominous. Left up. That's a longer conversation. I don't really know what I want to say there outside of there are some efforts, or there has been some discussion in the past to remove Bazel from the Kubernetes build infrastructure. That is, at least for now, on hold. I think that's for us to get to a place where we can actually do it. We have to have a few people actually staffing this work. So one of the attempts at doing this, essentially what we care about, it looks like from the release and testing angle is having a mechanism that can essentially store the success failure of our infra jobs, right? So if a CI job passes, that is usually cached uh, 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 for similar CI jobs, right? So similar CI jobs running in the same batch, right? Whether it's per commit or within a certain period of time. If we've noticed that a job has passed and the content are like a specific job has passed within a suite and the content that would cause the job to run has not changed, then Bazel will essentially skip it. Bazel will find the cached result and skip it. So we need a similar mechanism for running jobs without Bazel. Catherine was working on something like this, like a Go build cache. And Catherine has moved teams on the Google side. So someone would have to get a better understanding of that work and then pick it up and drive it to completion. It's an ominous blob of we don't know how long this could actually take since so much of our things are entangled with Bazel. So do I think it's important eventually? Absolutely. Is it the current fire that we have to work on? No. So just something to keep in our minds. If there is interest in helping to rip out Bazel, if you enjoy the idea of a project like that, let us know, and we'll link you up with SIG testing to chat more about it. But I think it's early days. We might hear something closer to end of August, early September, about where we're moving to there. So, any questions on that? Okay, last one up. This is again related to Go updates. So we've been in discussion kind of like in various ways, kind of offhand, but also with the release managers and then offhand again, about what would it look like to produce our own Golang images, right? So this would give us an opportunity to essentially consume Golang closer to tip and tip of the various release branches, and get that signal a little faster. Right? This is something that I don't believe the scalability team produces their own images, but they do consume earlier releases of Go than we, the community, and SIG Release does. So it'd be nice to move to. We're kind of dependent on Kubekin's E2E tests as well as well as the cube cross images, right? And both of those require a Golang image of some sort, right? To be based off of, or an image version to reference. So there would be a few things to, or rather a Go version to reference, to pull into the image. So there are a few things to think about there, but if we're able to do it, it means that we can push on cube cross images faster, which means we can turn around Go image bumps faster, right? So something to think about, something I'm going to be starting to poke at. If any of the release managers are interested in potentially looking at taking a look at this as well with me, let me know. Cool. All right, and last thing on the agenda, but certainly not least, we are talking about support for hardware architectures, various hardware architectures, and operating systems, right? So we've had discussions with the LumaOS folks have dropped by our calls before, and ARM more recently. I believe we have some ARM folks on the call right now. So if y'all want to say hi and maybe give any updates from the SIG architecture meetings. I believe there was a separate discussion there.
Wilson and Tina, are you still with us? Is anybody here, did anybody here attend the last SIG architecture meeting? I'm unsure from the minutes if it actually did get discussed.
Yeah, I didn't get to pop in for that.
There's a Zoom chat linked in the minutes, so I guess the meeting did happen. There'd been some question about whether it might not happen due to the holiday, but then I don't know how much of the agenda got through, and I've got to go pull up the video and watch it back, I guess.
Yeah, let me.
And the video is not online yet if the meeting did happen.
Gotcha. This is the chat is chat from a previous meeting as well. So it's
Might
entirely
have just
possible
copy
that that's,
pasted up,
yeah.
yeah.
I was like, wait a second, I was in that meeting. So yeah, maybe it didn't happen. Okay. All right, well, in that case, let's put this back in the holster for future topics. And hey, all right, stop it. Okay, so we've got a few minutes left. Are there any other
I'm
topics?
sorry. I had said Wilson. There was a Wilson from the ARM folks, I think, as well before. So it's just Tina who's on the call from ARM.
Okay, all right. Well, are we sure we have no more topics? Okay.
In SIGART's channel, there was chatter, makes it sound like the meeting did happen. So upload probably just got snagged up
It was
somewhere.
delayed, yeah. There were also issues on and off with Splane, which
It's
handles
been
the
having trouble for sure, yeah.
automatic uploads to YouTube. So it's possible this just hasn't been updated yet. Yeah, should be recorded, but not probably not uploaded. Yeah, so it's probably recorded, and Splane dropped the webhook, and it has been yet to be manually updated. So okay, all right. So I think we're wrapped, unless anyone else has stuff to chat about. All righty. Well, wait, one more. Arno, do you want to give an update on triage party?
What can I say? So basically, Trish Party is up and running on AAA GK cluster, but we face a technical issue with Trish Party. So to resume the issue, the ingress controller on the GK cluster check the have a health check for the service, which means you need to you need to be sure your service return a 200 HTTP code, but Trace Party return a 300, I think. So the ingress controller consider Trace Party is not running and can expose the service through the ingress.
Yeah, I think it's a 301 redirect or something.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
So I talked with the third party maintainer, and he is working on implement endpoints, so we can okay, I consider. So the ingress controller can consider a third party can be exposed to internet, which means we have to wait for the release on 1.2 of third party in the incoming weeks.
okay, that's awesome. I mean, the upside of that is we're not blocked on us anymore. We're blocked on Triage Party upstream, and Thomas has been kicking out releases pretty consistently for Triage Party, so we should see that soon. Everyone who's been working on this, thank you. Once this is out, there's going to be a big improvement to kind of the way we do business. I guess there's going to be a lot more scrutiny on triaging the backlog, and I think that our response time will increase across the board. So thank you again for working on this and carrying this ball for it's been a bit since we've been chatting about it. So thanks everyone for sticking with it. And now I think we're out of things to chat about. So I'm gonna try to give you a kitty, quick kitty. Hey, kitty. All right. She doesn't like to be on camera, unless it's of her own volition. But I will catch y'all later. The next one is either a release team meeting if you're there for the release team, or next week, same time. Like I said, of her own volition. Or the next time will be at the release engineering meeting. So catch y'all later. Okay, full on cat. Let me quit the call.